Let's talk about bedtime habits. What should you really be doing before you go to sleep at night? Um, well, there are three things that I have started to incorporate into my bedtime routine. The first one is practicing gratitude. So basically, you just try and list three things that you're grateful for that happened in the day, that day itself. Um, these things could be, material things, they could be emotional things, it could be support that you received on that day. Um, it could be some sort of communication that you received on that day. You could be grateful for maybe some help you received around the house. So you didn't have to do everything on your own that day. Um, I like to say thanks to the dishwasher at the end of the night because it's the dishwasher and it gets all the dishes done, so I don't have to. You can be grateful for a smile off of a stranger, a kind word, a compliment. Um, you could be grateful for the Starbucks person that got your order just right and spelled your name correctly. Um, you can be grateful really honestly for anything, but you have to think about it and you have to list these things. List three things, list five things, whatever it is. Be consistent. And some days maybe are not the best of days. Not every day is going to be a good day. However, there's always something to be grateful for. So to rewire your brain into feeling better about shit days, a really good thing to do is to practice gratitude. Another thing to be grateful for as well is to be grateful for yourself. You can also be grateful for yourself. You can be grateful specifically to your body, for example, if you'd done something strenuous that day, or if you were really tired or you weren't feeling well, but you still got up and did stuff. You can be grateful to yourself. You can say, "Hey, thanks, me. Thank you for dragging my ass around today, man. I appreciate that." um, Spiritually, the more gratitude that you express and the more gratitude that you cultivate and have, the more you'll wind up receiving. You'll receive more things to be grateful for. And conversely, the opposite of expressing gratitude is to complain. Like you might lie in bed at night and list all the things that you didn't like about the day. You might just, you might rattle off to your partner or whoever, or just to yourself, all the things that really sucked, and you'll just complain about them and then fall asleep and then wake up the next day and start the next day again. However, I'm sure you know that sets you up for failure the next day. If you go to bed thinking, "Oh, it's all gone to shit," you're not going to wake up with a positive attitude at all. Um, that said, though, if there is something that's bothered you during the day, of course you should talk about it or find a way to express how you feel about it, to process your emotions. Um, but oftentimes, I think we get complaining and expressing our emotions about something or processing something mixed up, and they're not really the same thing. Complaining is just more, it's a habitual behavior. You'll just sit there and whine and moan and complain about things, and oftentimes it's without introspection. It's just a form of it's a form of expressing what you think has happened to you. So you believe that this is just happening to you and it's beyond your control and it has nothing to do with you. So there's very little introspection going on when people just sit and complain all the time. And don't get me wrong, like it feels really good to just have like a really good bitch sometimes. But my point here is to not make it into a habit, and certainly to not make it more of a habit than expressing gratitude should be. So when you go to bed at night and let's say you legitimately, like you legit have something to complain about, that's fine. But then also list the things that you're grateful for. And sometimes It actually might take you a little minute to come up with even just one thing if you're not in a very good mood that day. However, just the simple act of rummaging through your brains for just the one thing to be grateful for in that day is really going to help to make you feel a lot better about the things that went wrong. The second thing that is also a good habit to get into before going to sleep at night is practicing cultivating a sense of pride in yourself. And this is different from gratitude. Cultivating a sense of pride is it's just to do with how you feel about yourself rather than how you feel about external things that have happened or didn't happen. So I think a lot of us will work really, really hard towards a specific goal, and we won't necessarily be happy until we've achieved that goal. And this isn't like the best recipe for sustainable happiness because often things don't go as planned. So, let's say you were set to achieve your goal by the end of the month, and the end of the month comes around, and for reasons beyond your control, you were unable to achieve that goal, or something happened, or there was a setback or something. That might make you feel really bad about yourself if you don't have a sense of pride that's been cultivated, that you've actually worked towards building. It's like cultivating a sense of pride in yourself is almost like an internal body armor, or it's like emotional. It's a way to generate emotional resilience. So when external things that are beyond your control take over the events of your life and you're unable to achieve something, it doesn't knock you back emotionally, and it doesn't make you feel like you're a failure, or like there's something wrong with you, or like you haven't been able to achieve the things that you set out to achieve by a certain date and a certain time. It's not going to make you feel like, you're too old to do things now. You should have done them before. Um, I personally feel like all of those really negative self sentiments can be avoided if you learn how to cultivate a sense of pride in yourself. So, when you go to bed at night after listing a few things that you're grateful for, you might pay yourself a compliment. You might say, you know what, I looked really good today. I think I put myself together quite well, and I may or may not have got any compliments, but I'm complimenting myself now. You can cultivate a sense of pride in your appearance. A lot of people like to cultivate a sense of pride in how they manage their home. So you may have done a little bit of housework today. You may have done an awful lot of housework today. So what you can do is pat yourself on the back and say, you know what, well done. I dusted and I mopped and I hoovered and I did the whole thing. And my house is spotless now. It's lovely. It's so fresh and so clean. Another way you might cultivate pride in yours. I combined the two words there. I combined cultivate and pride to get the word cultivate. Another way you might cultivate pride in yourself is by reflecting on how you may have handled your own emotions in that day. Let's say someone was trying their damnedest to trigger you and you didn't get triggered, so you can pat yourself on the back and say, attaboy, well done, you did not get triggered today, that's fucking fantastic. You might try to cultivate some pride in how you handled other people's emotions, or how you helped them deal with their emotions. Did you provide anyone with emotional support today? Did you even just smile at someone that maybe you don't necessarily like them, or maybe you were brave today and you did something that you don't normally do. Maybe you spoke to someone that you've wanted to speak to for a while, but just haven't found the right opportunity to do so. So that's another thing that you can say to yourself, well done, you did a good job. cultivating pride in these small things. Like these are really kind of like micro things to reflect on, but they're important because if you like I mentioned at the beginning of the cultivating pride section, if you put off feeling good about yourself until a date when something is achieved, um, you're pretty much saying to yourself that there's nothing worth feeling proud about right now, and that isn't true. There's a lot to feel proud about, and you should feel proud about yourself, and you should acknowledge this, and you shouldn't wait for other people to acknowledge it. You can acknowledge it yourself every night before you go to bed. You can say to yourself, hey, you know what, well done. Life is about the journey, it's not about the destination, and the journey should be as good as it can be, and you're quite responsible for how good your own journey is. So if you start to be more kind to yourself, and this is one method of doing so, your journey is going to be an awful lot nicer. And the third thing that I wanted to add for your bedtime routine is to strengthen your intuition by listing 3 ways in which you trusted your own gut feeling in the day. And when I first started doing this, this isn't something that I came up with myself. It's an idea that I got from one of these spiritual channels that I follow. And when I first heard of this idea, it just seemed like so difficult to come up with 3 distinct, different times during the day that I trusted my own intuition. When I first heard this, I thought, wow, like 3 times in a day? Maybe I can like list 3 things in a month where I trust my own intuition. But trust me, the longer you reflect on this, the easier it'll start to come to you, and it won't take so long. So at first, you might have to spend a long time reflecting on your intuition and how you trusted yourself in the day, and you made a decision based on your own gut instinct rather than going with what other people may have suggested, or what you think or what you thought may have been the right course of action, as opposed to just trusting yourself and going with just how you felt. It may seem quite difficult to begin with, but if you think on it, it'll just start to become clear to you how true and honest and sincere and how right your own intuition always is, because it's your intuition. It's about you. It's from you. It's to you, and it's almost like having, like someone like a bodyguard or something that you pay to keep around you, and that person will shout out, hey, don't do this, hey, this isn't a good idea. And since you're paying that person to be around you, you should probably like listen to them, and if you were paying them, you probably would listen to them. And I think oftentimes we ignore ourselves because we don't give ourselves or our internal instincts that much importance. We don't think that our internal knowing is as important as the knowing of someone else. For example, someone that we may be paid to look out for us, or someone who we know very well, or a family member, or just society in general. Whatever common sense dictates, we might believe that that's more important than what we feel within ourselves. So we'll often quiet our own internal knowing and ignore it. So cultivating and strengthening your intuition is very important. It's very important to help you to be aligned with yourself. So you don't want to, if you're constantly doing things that just don't feel right to you and they're going against the grain, you're going to fall out of alignment with yourself, and you're not going to wind up very happy. Whereas when you start to trust and believe in your own inner knowledge and inner wisdom and intuition, you're going to have a greater sense of well-being. So these are 3 things that I like to do before I go to bed at night. That is to practice gratitude, to list 3 to 5 things that I've been grateful for in the day. And sometimes it's a really good day and you've got an awful lot of things to be grateful for. So make sure you list them and you say thanks. And the other thing is to cultivate a sense of pride in yourself. So that's also to list the remarkable or not so remarkable things that you've done in the day, but nonetheless, they're important and they deserve to be recognized. So you can do that, and that will help to build up your sense of self-worth, and it'll help you to come to learn when what you've done is enough. A lot of times when people don't have a very strong sense of feeling proud of themselves, um, they won't know when enough is enough. So they'll overdo and overgive, and maybe even like put themselves down and say to themselves, oh, I should have done more, I should have worked harder, when actually they worked incredibly hard and they did more than enough. So cultivating a sense of pride is also going to help you to curb any impulses to overdo and overgive, um, because overdoing and overgiving is just an indication that you don't value yourself, and you should value yourself because you're the only person that can do that. So you have to start valuing yourself if this applies to you. And the third and final thing that I have to add today is the intuition. And what you want to do is work on your intuition, work on strengthening it, developing it, and just generally trusting yourself, and then thanking yourself afterwards for providing yourself with that insight, with that wisdom, with that knowledge. Um, and a little example of this is, let's say you're driving and you just have a feeling that if you take the road you normally take, it's going to be a bit congested. I mean, you haven't checked Google Maps or anything. No one actually said to you that the road will be busy, but you just had a little feeling, so you decided to take a shortcut or a different route. And then when you got home, you found out that actually there was a bit of a bit of a jam on the road that you normally took. So guess what? That was your intuition. Your intuition told you what to do and you listened. So you saved a little bit of time. You didn't get frustrated on the road. All in all, that was a good thing. And it's just small things like that, or either big things where, for example, you might might be going for a big interview or something like that, and you just get a bad vibe in the room. Like you just get the idea that these people are not sincere, or that these people are trying to get more out of you than they're willing to pay for, or whatever it is. Like you just get a bad vibe. Go with it. It's often right. So if you go against the bad feeling and then you later on find out that you were right, you're going to wish you'd believed yourself. You should always believe yourself. It's always the right thing to do. Even if you feel like it turned out to not be the right thing to do, overall, in the greater scheme, it's going to be it will have been the right thing to do for sure. Your gut instinct is always something that you should go with over anything else. And those are my 3 tips for getting ready to go to bed at night. They're 3 straightforward things that you can do, although they do take a little bit of time, but it's worth taking the time to get into these things. I feel like we can, without this sort of guidance, like we can often get lost in our thoughts and wind up not even being able to fall asleep because we're busy thinking about things that went wrong, or busy about thinking about things that we don't have, and cultivating a sense of lack rather than a sense of abundance. And all of these things just set you up for failure, and they tire your brain. Like you feel exhausted, but also because your brain is on, you can't actually get to sleep. So it really is a waste of time and energy to complain endlessly and to focus endlessly on the negative. Whereas when you focus on the positive, it's actually a calming experience. It's actually beneficial to your mind, body, and soul, and you get a restful night's sleep out of it. And in the morning, you're all set to go for a new day, for things to be grateful for, with things where you can trust your intuition and where you can feel proud about yourself and the things that you've done. Well done, you. You did a good job today.